أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعن الله الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Respected brothers and sisters, may Allah reward you and all of us for your commemoration and your mourning for Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. Inshallah, your presence at this gathering this evening is a source of comfort to the heart of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam and to the heart of the Imam of our time. As we get closer to Ashura, we can only imagine that the Imam of our time is remembering and reliving the dhulm and the injustice that was done to his family in ways that we can never understand. May Allah give comfort to his heart and may Allah hasten his reappearance with the barakah of a united, beautiful salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. May Allah reward you for your good intentions in participating in tonight's program. We pray that Allah accepts all of your efforts. Our topic is the path to Saʿādah. And the path to Saʿādah is something which requires us to learn and to act. When we come to these majalis, we want to, inshallah, be reflecting that what can I take and what can I act upon? All of us are in need of reminders. All of us are in need of improvement. And if we can strive for true Saʿādah, then that means success in all aspects of our lives. True Saʿādah, meaning true success and happiness and blessedness, is not just simply going for the easy way out or the one which pleases my soul in in simple, fleeting, temporary pleasures. True Saʿādah, true felicity and blessedness requires following a system of taklif. It requires honoring others, and it requires leading a God-centered life. Every night we've been focusing on a story that has guided our discussion. Last night we looked at the story of Kafur al-Khadim. Kafur was part of the house of Imam Hadi alayhi salam. And there was an opportunity for there to be tension and conflict. But Kafur felt bad about what he had done. And Imam Hadi alayhi salam is Ahlul Karam. He's one who's very honorable and dignified in everything that he does and in everyone he deals with. So if you remember, the story is that he made a mistake, and as a way of covering up his mistake, Allah miraculously was able to fix it up. So he was able to save face, he was able to recover from that, and there was no damage that was done. And the lesson that we took from that is that Allah works miracles in relationships where people operate on the basis of karama. They treat each other in a dignified way. Now, for tonight, I want to, inshallah, discuss some of the huquq that we have towards one another. And last night we began that discussion by looking at the haqq of ihtiram, the haqq of hurma, and observing the respect that's needed and giving the dignity that's needed in relationships with any believers. Before we go there, I want to cover the story for tonight. Inshallah is a good introduction for it. It's a very beautiful story. It's narrated from somebody named Isam ibn Mustaliq. Isam, this story, by the way, is found in the books of history that are typically relied upon by the Ahlus Sunnah. And the tradition has been copied into some of the books of the hadith of the Shia as well. So it's an old story. And it's a story of Isam. Isam was somebody from Sham who was visiting Medina. And he was an enemy of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam. You probably heard variations of this story, but there's some of the details that sometimes aren't talked about that I want to make sure to pause and reflect upon and learn from in tonight's lecture, inshallah. So Isam is visiting Medina, and when he's in Medina, he sees Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And some of the narrations say that he saw Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Sometimes the story is told about Imam Hassan, sometimes it's told about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We know that they're the same light and from the same tree, but in what I could find based on the earliest source, it mentions Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But perhaps somebody could go do some more research and they would find something otherwise. So what happens is that he sees Imam Hussein alayhi salam and he's impressed by what he sees. We can only imagine what kind of delight our hearts would be filled with if we were to be able to see the Imam of the time. He sees Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He's impressed by him, but he thinks that, okay, is this the person that I've been looking for? So he says that, Hal anta ibnu Abi Turab. Are you the son of Abu Turab? And as you know, Abu Turab is a term that our Prophet used for Imam Ali alayhi salam as a way of a term of affection and of respect. But some of the enemies took that and they would use it as a way of insulting him. So in this case, Isam wanted to insult Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So, are you the son of Abu Turab? Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, yes, that's me. And when he says that, then Isam says that I had this deep-rooted hatred and ill will and malice that came to the forefront. I forgot about how I was impressed by him, and I just started to let it go. And I started to call him names and swear at him and all these insults. So it's very interesting. He says that when I finished everything that was inside of me, I just poured it out. How is it that Imam Hussein responds to him? You know, we began this series by saying that we want to look at how to live the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So this is how Imam Hussein lives. He says, فَنَظَرَ إِلَيَّ نَظْرَةَ عَاطِفٍ رَؤُوفٍ. He says that he looked at me with a look of compassion and mercy. Okay, so take note of that. Then he says that Imam Hussein began to speak. He says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم خذ العفو وأمر بالمعروف وأعرض عن الجاهلين وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فاستعذ بالله إنه سميع عليم. So he quotes some of the ayat of the Quran having to do with when shaitan wants to get you to have conflict with somebody else, then remember Allah and do isti'ādah, take refuge in Allah. So then Imam Hussein begins to tell him, he says, calm down, right? If only you have some need from us, I'm here to help you. If you have any assistance that you're a stranger, we're here to give you that assistance. If you need me to guide you, because when you're somebody new to town, a lot of times you don't know what's where. So he's like, I can help you to find what's where, I can guide you. But this is the way that I would like to deal with you. He doesn't, and then he says that if there's anything that I've done to you, please forgive me, and may Allah forgive you for anything that you've done as well. So at that time, when he sees his response, when he sees the way that he looks at him, then Isam becomes very embarrassed. And Imam Hussein notices this, and so he quotes another ayah from the Quran, which is from Surah Yusuf, which is لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم إن الله هو أرحم الراحمين. Meaning that there's no blame on you. This is from the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, where the brothers of Nabi Yusuf, they admitted to the terrible crime that they had done, and Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, instead of getting angry at them, instead of kind of using it as a way of weaponizing and turning it against them, he forgives them. He says that there's nothing in my heart towards you today. And so the same way that Allah is compassionate, He's Arhamur Rahimin, I too am Arhamur Rahimin. And so Isam at that point, he says that I felt like the earth is swallowing me up at this time. I was so ashamed of what I had done. This is what I had thought. I came and I swore at him and his father. I insulted them. And this is the way that he's treating me. And then he says that in my heart at that time, there was nobody who was more beloved than Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So brothers and sisters, there's some very important lessons that we can take from even this one hadith. These hadiths are really golden. I personally, when I come to these, I'm like, I wish that, we would be taught to live life according to these principles. This is haqq. These are the people of haqq. Number one is that when he insults him, how is it that Imam Hussein looks at him? Most people, when they're insulted, they get into fight mode. They're like, I need to now defend myself. I'm going to go and, okay, you punch me, I'm going to punch you back. But with a believer, with a mu'min, that's not the approach. Even in general, right? Whether it be a mu'min or not a mu'min, if somebody is acting out of line, do we look at them as an enemy or do we look at them as a patient? Somebody who is ill. Somebody who needs help. Okay, now, yes, there are those people who are actually the enemy and they need to be dealt with, in the right way. I'm not saying that Islam is a pacifist religion and we want to embrace everyone and everything. But in many cases, the reason for their hostility is a type of ignorance and lowliness of the self. And I am looking at that, I have to look at that and say that I pity you. I'm sorry for how you are. I honestly, I'm really feeling bad that you would deal with me in this way. And so Imam Hussein is looking at him imagine, through his anger and his hatred, he notices that Imam Hussein is filled with compassion. Body language makes a difference. Brothers and sisters, in our relationships with other people, our body language makes a difference. When in our hadith we're told that we should smile, and smile is an act of charity, it's not just for other people, it's for us as well too. We can start at home very simply. One of the things that I always try to remind myself of, and others as well too, is that the first time we see one of our family members at home in the day, the very first time, how do we interact with them? Right? Do we smile at them? Number one. Number two, do we say salam to them? Sometimes in homes, I'm surprised that the first time that a family, like a father meets a child, or a mother meets their child, or a husband and wife meet together, the first time they meet in the day, there's no salam. Right? It's like, what's for breakfast? Or where are we going? Or, why did the coffee burn? Right? I don't know what they would say here. But maybe in American culture, why is the coffee burnt? Okay, but wait a minute, we're Muslims, right? The first thing we want to say is salam. Where's the smile? Where's the salam? Okay, then we see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he's practically teaching this man how we're supposed to be, because this is a case where he could have easily gotten angry, but he says, وَإِمَّا يَنْزَغَنَّكَ الشَّيْطَانُ نَزْغ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. When shaitan wants to incite you and get you to go and take a pitchfork and prod you to react in a way which is hostile, just calm down and take refuge with Allah. This is also a lesson. And then the third lesson is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is watching that man, Isam, very carefully. Okay? He's watching him and he notices that he's embarrassed. So what he does at that time is that he gives him a way of not having to, of retaining his dignity, of being able to escape from that. And this is very important, that in our relationship with others, we have to be observant and attentive. So many times we hear from, for example, a spouse saying that, I wish that they would listen to me. I wish that they would, I don't feel that I'm heard by the other party. Or even a child will say that my father or my mother, I don't feel that they ever hear me. They don't listen to me. And sometimes literally, it's because we're so distracted with our devices. And sometimes it's not our devices, we're distracted with our own issues. And sometimes it's just that we haven't trained ourselves to give enough respect to the person in front of us to say that this person has more hurma than the Kaaba. Okay, imagine we're in front of the Kaaba and let's say put our backs to it, we lean on it disrespectfully and we start watching FIFA or something like that, right? And be like, what's going on here? You're at the Kaaba, respect the Kaaba, right? So similarly, we can just use that as an example that when it comes to other people, especially believers, that dignity and giving them that attention is so important. These are some of the few very important life lessons we learn from this beautiful story narrated from Isam ibn Mustadiq. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, for the rest of the lecture, I want to focus on some of the huquq that are shared, that must be observed as part of haqqun nas in our relationships with other believers. When we're talking about these huquq, we're talking about that system of taklif that we've spoken about in previous nights and how it applies when it comes to dealing with others. So these huquq are not optional. They are things that either we must do or we must not do. And just to reiterate, sometimes when we approach Islam, we approach it from the lens of ibadat, but we forget about talking about haqqun nas. And even though ibadat, like our prayers and our fasting, are supremely important, we know that Allah is Arhamur Rahimin and Ghafurur Rahim. But when it comes to haqqun nas, the same Allah who is Ghafurur Rahim and Rahmanur Rahim says that that's between you and that person. You got to sort it out. So these are not small things. We need to take these seriously, really learn about them. And what's amazing is that there's not like a huge list. It's not like something where, it's like you're taking some exam that you need to, for example, learn how to fly a plane. Right? These are basic things. But these basic things sometimes are not known, or they're known but they're not observed. Last night we talked about the first one, which had to do with hurma and respect. And we said one of the ways of observing the respect is not to get angry and to show that anger and display that anger as an automatic response. A family which is filled with anger is often a family where there's a lot of instability and a lot of issues. And it can result in children who are disturbed. I want to just finish that discussion about anger by quoting a very beautiful hadith that we have. It's narrated from the advice that's given from our Prophet to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He says, Ya Ali, O Ali, do not get angry. فَإِذَا غَضِبْتَ, he says that if you would happen to get angry, فَقْعُدْ, sit down, وَتَفَكَّرْ فِي قُدْرَةِ الرَّبِّ عَلَى الْعِبَادِ وَحِلْمِهِ عَنْهُمْ. He says that if you ever were to get angry, then sit down and reflect on the power of Allah and how much hilm He has towards them. In Dua al-Iftitah, we have this one line where we say, Alhamdulillahi ala hilmihi ba'da ilmih. You must know this line. Right? It's a very powerful line where we say that, oh Allah, one of the reasons why I'm so impressed by you and I praise you so much and I love you so much is because even though you know what I've done and you know how I've disobeyed you, you still have so much patience towards me. Right? You still keep your blessings flowing towards me. You still open your doors of mercy to me. You still keep your guidance intact for me. You haven't taken the iman from my heart. You haven't punished me that way. You're so halim. You're so forgiving and patient with me. So Prophet Muhammad is telling Imam Ali that one of the keys to be able to be somebody who is in control of their temper is to be fascinated with the patience of Allah to His servants. One of the reasons why I mention this is because Islamic ethics has to be superior to secular ethics. In secular ethics, when we have a system without God, then somebody might say that, okay, don't get angry. Well, why don't you get angry? Don't get angry because, it helps to maintain good relationships with the people around you. Okay, fine. But Islam goes to much deeper level. Islam says that don't be angry. Why not? Don't be angry because you're so much aware of the presence of Allah and you do dhikr of Allah, and your dhikr of Allah teaches you that your Rabb is one who is incredibly patient. So you take that as an example for yourself. See, dhikr of Allah has incredible effects in our lives. It's very important. It's one of the pathways to Saʿādah. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, haqq number 1 was hurma. Number 2, this is a haqq that we must observe. Number 2 is that we are not allowed to do ghiba and sharing the faults and the bad actions of those around us with others. Okay, now this is something which is known to all of us. This is one of the major sins, right? That if we were to do backbiting and do ghiba, then it has a lot of implications in this world and the hereafter. But one of the things that I want to mention here is that sometimes people feel that in the context of families and relationships between believers, they somehow think that there are some exceptions that don't exist. And on the contrary, they think that sometimes they shouldn't do ghiba when they should do ghiba. Okay, this is very important. Okay, I don't want to go into the details of it. This is not a fiqh class. But there are some times when it's very important that we should do ghiba. We should share those things that we know that are private and that are negative about a fellow believer. Why? Because it's very important. It's our responsibility. Somebody asks you, for example, about your friend, and they ask about, there's a legitimate, let's say, concern having to do with a prospective marriage situation. Okay, they want to know whether this person is suitable or not. Okay, and you know a very dark secret about your friend that actually will have a big impact, in that person's decision. So they come to you and they ask you, Islamically, what is the responsibility here? Right? This would be a ghiba because it's hidden to others. But it also is very important for that person to know when it comes to their decision making. So to the extent necessary, not extra, in a way that does not do character assassination, it might be wajib in that case to actually share that information even though it's ghiba. Okay, and sometimes we have examples in some of the communities where people didn't share that. They thought they were being a better Muslim by not sharing it, and then later on, they were very regretful because something bad happened. So there are some cases when it comes to major decisions having to do with like marriage or business where maybe somebody might have to do ghiba. But there are other cases where that ghiba can be very destructive to a relationship. I'll give you an example. Sometimes, there's a husband and wife, and there might be some points that they don't get along on, which is actually perfectly normal. It doesn't mean that there's something like a bad thing. That's nature, that's human life. Okay? Now, they have this. Now, what might happen is that one of them goes to their parents, and the parents ask them, so how are things? Right? They're like, not so good. They're like, why not? Okay, then like, oh, it's my mom, right? Oh, it's my dad, right? I always share everything with my mom and my dad. So let me share everything that's going on in my marriage as well too, and share all the flaws and all the difficulties that are taking place. Okay? Now, this is very dangerous. Because it could be the case, it will be the case that as somebody who lives in a shared space, we have a shared life, that we will come to know things that are negative and that are false, that are hidden from other people about the people who are closest to us. Is it fair game? Meaning, is it halal? Is it allowed for me to just share that, let's say, with the mother or the father? Right? This is where we have to really ask ourselves that where is the Islamic justification for doing so? And then what happens is that it becomes a type of, boxing match, right? Where you have this team and you have that team, and then my team mom versus the team wife or whatever, and then then we can have fireworks and we can have lots of like round after round. We want to avoid these type of things, right? And we have to go back to the principles, okay, that we keep those things secret, right? This is an amana. We do not have the right to spread negativity about other people. Sometimes in a community setting, the same thing happens, right? We feel that, okay, something happens, I need to now let everyone know, right? So why? What's the Islamic justification for this? To be very careful about these matters. One thing I would mention is that sometimes it might be the case that people need to get help. They need to get advice. They go in front of the community scholar and they say, look, we're having some difficulties in this relationship. Can we come to you? As part of that, of getting advice, it might be the case they have to share some negative things. That's okay, right? Because they're trying to get help. They're trying to solve the issue. They're being proactive about it. And if they don't talk about the main issues, then they're never going to get anywhere. Sometimes people hold back in those cases. They come and they're like, I can't really say anything because I don't want to do ghibah. It's like, well, if you don't talk, then how are you going to solve the problems? So again, these are some cases where we, I'm sure that it's good for us to, be very educated and make use of what the guidelines that we have within the Sharia. Please recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we've talked about the hurma, we talked about ghiba. The third one, which also is a haqq that our fellow believers have upon us, is that we should avoid false accusations. Okay, false accusation meaning a type of buhtan or tuhma or iftira, where we make up something against them. Obviously, if ghiba is forbidden, and ghiba is when we tell the truth about something that's hidden, we disclose it, we share something that was hidden, but it's actually what's true. Of course, if we lie about something, then it's even worse, right? That makes logical sense that would be considered a type of sinfulness. But here we want to make a point too, that in relationships with others, oftentimes we are actually doing iftira and a type of tuhma without realizing it. And this is how it works. You see, our memory is structured in a way where sometimes we have selective recollection. We selectively remember some things and we forget other things. Particularly when we're in a conflict with somebody else, human nature is to remember those things that are in our favor and to forget about those things that are in the other person's favor. Okay, this is something that you can test and try. It's been seen repeatedly that this is the case. So sometimes, we might, let's say, complain, right? We go to somebody we think they can help us. We say that, so-and-so, they've done this to me, they've done this to me, they've done this to me. And it's like, well, wait a minute, right? Are you giving the whole picture? Because you have to be careful about how the other person is interpreting what you're saying. For example, let's say that, somebody goes and says that, so-and-so, they hit me. Okay, they hit me, right? I've been wronged. So it's like, okay, can you tell me the full context, right? Well, this has happened, right? It's like, yeah, I was attacking him, and then in self-defense, he happened to hold up his fist, right? And I struck his fist, I got hurt. Okay, who's the aggressor and who is the victim here? Or for example, let's say, she swore at me, she used bad language. Okay, for example, whoever it is. So, okay, did you tell the whole story that before that, you used bad language 10 times? Okay, now, this time, you were responded to with bad language. So, yes, that wasn't right, but you have to tell the whole story. Right? So, be very careful about this when we're capturing certain events. One of the things that I want to point out here is that a lot of times, our nafs gets involved here, shaitan gets involved here when it comes to like trying to score points on other people and presenting things in a certain way and not having insaf, not having a type of fairness when it comes to approaching and presenting certain things. Experience has shown that a lot of times when there's a conflict, let's say between a parent and a child, or between two spouses, or between two believers, the conflict actually comes down to 2, 3, or 4 things. 4 things, right? There's like 100 things that are going well, or 1,000 things that are going well, and there's 3 or 4 things that now have come up and they've identified, and they're like, okay, it's like basically want to end this relationship, for example. Okay? So what's important here is to approach it in a very proper manner where you say, let's actually list out what is actually happening here. And let's be fair, don't present half-truths, be complete in your discussion about this. And the other point to make here is that sometimes we jump on something and we blow it out of proportion, right? We Shias of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we have this part of our culture, right? We're very, very strong about justice, very strong against injustice. But sometimes we take this and we make everything a Karbala, right? Every time there's any conflict, we take it and we say that now, okay, that's it. He's Yazid, then I'm Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Okay, this is very dangerous here. Yes, Karbala, when it happens, we're there, right? We have to make that statement. Okay, we don't shy against calling out injustice. But a lot of times with believers, it's not at that level where we have to like go out and just make it be of that proportion, right? There's different ways and different levels of severity. We need to acknowledge that and deal with things in the appropriate manner. Again, please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we've talked about hurma, we talked about ghiba, we talked about iftira, the half-truths. We have 2 or 3 more, and then inshallah I will do raf' az-zahma. Okay, the 4th one here is the importance of not lying. We know that lying is a sin. Mu'mineen do not lie. They speak the truth, and this is important in all circumstances. We know that even when we're joking, it's not allowed to lie. It's not allowed to make white lies. It's not allowed to make small lies. Muslimin are people of truth. In the family context, in particular, if it's the case that there's somebody who lies to the other person, this can be very damaging. And the reason is because the home has to be a place of safety and security. Where else do we go to when we want to feel comfortable? Where else do we take off our armor? Where else can we just feel like we're at home other than home? There's an expression in English which is that it feels like home. Okay, maybe you have something similar in other languages. So if what other place than home should feel like home? Home, the reason why home feels like home is because we feel safe there. We don't have to act. We don't have to be, tiptoeing. We know that we're going to be accepted. We know that we're going to be loved. But when there is lying that takes place and we can no longer trust the people around us, then that's something which can create a lot of difficulties. I don't understand. Sometimes I hear reports from families, inshallah, nothing happens like that here, where there might be somebody who is very secretive about what they do, right? They don't share where they go. They don't share whom they're talking to. They don't share what kind of activities they're doing on their phone. Okay, not that we have to be sharing our phone with every other family member and share our passwords. No, there's no need to do that. But it should be the case that generally there's an understanding where we're always keeping tabs on one another. We know where everyone is, right? This is a sign of love, a sign of care and concern for one another. But when we start becoming secretive and all that, it creates mistrust and it leads to the breakdown of the security at the home. So that's number 4. Number 5 and number 6. Number 5 is that one of the rights of believers is that their needs should be fulfilled by others if they are not able to fulfill them themselves. Okay? Qada hawa'ij. right? It's very important. When a believer comes to us and they say that I need something and I want you to help me, if it's a halal and a justified need, not just a want, it's a need. Number one. Number two, if I have the means to provide for that. Number three, if by providing that need, it's not going to put me in a difficult spot, it's wajib on me to fulfill that. It's not an option anymore. Right? It's very important. Islam is emphasizes very highly taking care of the social needs of fellow believers. Let's say in a family, it might be the case that, for example, the husband is the breadwinner. He's the one who's earning the money, and he's providing for his family members. He's taking care of his spouse, he's taking care of his children. Now, he has extra. And one day, his wife comes to him and she says that, look at my parents who are in a different country, there's a medical procedure that they need to go through. They don't have any other means. They're believers. Can we help them? Okay, now he might say that, well, what does that have to do with me? They're not my parents. Okay, why are you asking me? Figure it out on your own. But if he thinks about it deeply, he'll realize that, wait a minute, this is something that is an opportunity for me to fulfill one of the rights of believers. Yes, it's my in-laws, but in this case, it's my wife who is asking me, and I have a responsibility by virtue of she being my wife. And this is a need. It's one of the hawaj of the mu'mineen. In hadith, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that if somebody comes to us and they have a haja, they have a need, number one, we have to smile at them. We shouldn't look at them in a way like, why are you asking me? Right? We should be like very welcoming. We're okay with that. This is an opportunity for us, number one. Number two is that if we have the means to fulfill that need, we should do it right away. Number three, if we can't fulfill it right away, then we come up with a plan to fulfill it in the future. And he says if somebody doesn't do that, then they should consider themselves outside of the wilaya of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. They don't belong in that group of people who can call themselves the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. These are say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Last one, brothers and sisters, is that one of the rights we have on one another is not to do what's called hijran, or in some languages we use the word qahr. Okay, this is where we give each other what's called the silent treatment. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this before. Somebody gets angry or they're upset and they just stop talking. Okay, now what is the reason why they stop talking? They want to send a message to the other person that I don't like what you're doing, or I don't like what you did, I don't like what you treat me, or I want you to do something for me that you're not doing. Unfortunately, sometimes people can use this and abuse it. Sometimes we hear about families where it can be weeks or months of this type of treatment of one another. It's very dangerous when this sort of thing happens, that somebody loses the ability to even communicate with the other party. When we started out talking yesterday about respect, imagine that the way that I'm treating somebody is such that I don't even give them enough dignity that I can talk to them. Right? It's not something which really, if you think about it, it's very rough. It's not really respectful of who this person is. Now, is there a situation where silent treatment might be okay? Well, maybe. There might be some rare circumstances once in a while where somebody might need to do that in order to convey a point. But for the most part, this is one of those things which is overused and it's abused. Recently, there was a case that was brought to my attention. The husband, had come up with something. He had invented some sort of story where he was resentful of his wife. For 2 months, the only way he's communicating with her is through their child, right? He wants something, he tells the child, okay, I'm going to be going on a business trip. Tell your mom that I'm going on a business trip. And then the mom will get this message and she'll tell him something back, and this way and that way, right? For 2 months. Imagine the situation where now the poor child, what kind of difficulty she's facing, that she has to be the messenger between her father and her mother. You know what the ahadith say? The ahadith say that first of all, don't do this. Right? We have a hadith, a famous hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says that to Abu Dharr, he says, "Iyaka wa hijrana akhik." Don't do this. Don't cut off. Don't give the silent treatment to your fellow brother. فَإِنَّ الْعَمَلَ لَا يَتَقَبَّلُ مَعَ الْهِجْرَانِ. Actions don't get accepted. Nothing's happening there in the spiritual world when somebody does that. Ya Aba Dhar, anhaka an al-hijran. I prohibit you from doing it. Don't do it. But if you're going to do it, then don't let it exceed 3 days. Okay? So on this basis, definitely we're told that, except for very rare exceptions, more than 3 days is completely haram. And in general, this should be avoided. And you know what's interesting, brothers and sisters? That hijran is haram, not only for the one who does it, but for the one who receives it as well. Right? This is one of the things that is often not known. That sometimes, let's say that my fellow brother or my relative, they cut off from me. If I take that and I say that, oh, okay, well, they cut off from me, then I'm going to cut off from them, right? I'm not going to talk to them. I get the same punishment as they do. Right? The hadith says what? Imam Saʿādah says that when there are two mu'mineen who do this to one another, he says that the one who does it is istawjab al-la'an, meaning that person deserves to be cut off from Allah. And he says, how often it's the case that both of them, that istawjaba al-la'an, both of them, both deserve to be cursed. Imagine the Imam of the time is cursing both of the people who are doing this. Then the narrator says that, why is the person who is the recipient, why is he being cursed? The Imam says that, well, why doesn't he go to him and just say, I'm sorry? Right? What's the big deal? Why does it take so much to go and just say, look, let's work this out. Let's patch this up. You might be giving me the cold shoulder, but I'm not going to treat you in the same way. So sometimes, brothers and sisters, we're looking to solve a problem and we don't want to yell, right? Now we don't want to do silent treatment. What can we do? The advice that we're told is temporarily, if we are to put a little bit of damper on our warmth, not be as warm as we normally are, that itself will send a message to the person that we're upset, and it usually is enough. You don't need to go beyond that. But what the requirement there is that we have that warmth, we have that relationship that's there, so that when they feel a little bit less love, they get the point. And this is the most effective way of being able to send that message to the person that, look, there's something going on here. I want you to think about it and let's fix this. Rather than going all out and just going immediately, pressing the button of the silent treatment, the cold shoulder, and cutting off that relationship. You just like salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, in summary, just to sum up, today we looked at the story of Isam and how he met Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and how Imam Hussein's treatment of him was so insightful about how we're to deal with other people. Then we started looking at those huquq. We went through a list of 5 or 6 of them, including hurma, not doing ghiba, not having iftira, not doing the silent treatment. And inshallah tomorrow we're going to conclude this discussion about relationships. I did spend some time on it because it's so important and one of the crises that we're facing in Western societies. I want to conclude tonight's lecture by mentioning one of the incidents that we have regarding Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, because he's one of those individuals that we're going to be remembering in the upcoming nights. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Sallallahu alayka ya Aba al-Fadl al-Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. In the ziyarat of the Shuhada of Karbala, there are many beautiful lines that we say when we're talking to them. And these ziyarat are taught to us by the Imams who are ma'asum. They are the ones who are telling us to admire the Shuhada of Karbala and to look to them as examples. We say, for example, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum fanafuza ma'akum fawzan azima. Those lines are so powerful that, oh, I wish that I could be with you and I could attain that great victory that you attained. But among the shuhada, there is one shaheed whose fadl and whose excellence and whose virtue and accomplishments is so high that in hadith we're told that on the Day of Judgment, all the shuhada will look at that shaheed and they will have envy because of his maqam and his status. and that is Hadrat Abu Fadl Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'minin. We know that Abbas, in one of the ziyarat, we say that Assalamu alaikum, we say peace be upon him. We say وَرَغِبَ فِيمَا زَهِدَ فِيهِ غَيْرُكَ مِنَ الثَّوَابِ الْجَزِيلِ وَالثَّنَاءِ الْجَمِيلِ. We say that Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam, that there's things that normal people or other people, they're like, I can't do that, right? That's too difficult for me. That's too much of a sacrifice. But when it came to Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam, it was something which he didn't shy away from. He went for it. He went to that, he took that challenge, and he accomplished what he accomplished. One of the stories of Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam that's really admirable is on the day of Ashura, Shimr, Dil Joshan, when the command had come from Umar ibn Sa'd to Ubaydullah to attack, then Shimr, he goes to the army of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and he says, where are the sons of my sister? So Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam, through al-Banin and his three brothers, they were related to Shimr by blood. Now, at this point, Abbas alayhi salam could have said that, well, this is my brother, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and brothers always stick together, and so I'm not going to even respond to Shimr. I'm not going to even give him the dignity of a response. I know who he is and what he stands for. But Hadrat Abbas alayhi salam doesn't do that. Why? Because he's a principled person. He's a person who observes huquq. Right? He knows what his taklif is, and he confirms with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says that even if he's a fasiq, he has a right on you. Go and listen to what he has to say. He's a relative. Go and listen to what he has to say. When he meets him, Shimr offers him an aman, a type of protection for him and his brothers. He says that you're related to me. You can be exempt for this. And he says that, what are you talking about, aman? You're the one who has brought this situation and this difficulty for Imam Hussein and for all the companions and for his family, and you're the cause of this, and then you're saying that you want to talk about aman. May Allah, prevent you from His mercy. He gives him a proper response, but only after he had heard him out. So this is one of the excellences and virtues of Hadrat Abbas that he never compromised on rights and justice, even at the time of difficulty. May Allah Ta'ala give us the inspiration to be among the true companions of the Imam of our time. May Allah hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time. May Allah help all the madhlumeen and give them victory over the oppressors. And may He give us the tawfiq to be His true servants and the followers of the Ahlul Bayt with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.